Climate change is the term used to describe the long-term weather pattern changes that are experienced by the people today through the adverse effects that it can cause, especially in the Philippines.
The most alarming case so far was the sudden hailstorm in the city of Baguio a few years back. In spite of all the advocates, all the people that tried to warn us, to help us, the inevitable has come.
Basically, climate change is an inevitable thing that each and everyone experience in their daily lives. A lot of issues have been affecting how businesses run in the industry.
Another problem that could stir up attention in the near future is how architects design based on the ever-changing climate. Thus, the most important thing that we want to compass are the concerns and problems that collide with it in our day-to-day lives.
We can't delve into everything, so we would like to put emphasis on the aspect of business, architecture, as well as everyday life.
With that, let us see how these impact people who encounter the said problems and how they adapt to it.
Climate change may be the most pressing issue that the country is currently facing. According to a survey conducted by HSBC, the Philippines ranked third in climate change vulnerability, just behind India and Pakistan. So what does this mean? This means that Filipinos are more vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change compared to most nationalities in the world. Most importantly, two of the biggest industries here in the country are also directly affected by climate change. These are the business industry and the architectural industry. The former is an integral force in boosting our economy, and the latter is an important ingredient for nation building, as evident on our government's Build, Build, Build program. With this, we sought the insights of Mr. Venturanza Sr. and Mr. and Mrs. Pantanco to learn how their respective fields of work are affected by climate change.
Floods, because before climate change, the typhoons used to pass the Visayas, Bicol region. Now, it is passing through the Visayas and Manila, and floods have been the most difficult thing about the climate change. If the roads are flooded, we have no way of passing, so we just have to wait until the floods recede, and sometimes it goes down after 12 hours. So we lose a day or two, also because of truck ban.
So you lose money?
Yes, you lose money by waiting because you cannot exempt yourself from paying the salaries and the food for the driver and helper.
What about the company you are transporting to?
Well, they have to wait. They cannot force us to go through the flood because then an accident would cost more than waiting. Well, the only thing we could do to lessen it is to wait it out. Wait for the floods to recede so you don't have problems with your truck or with the brakes of the truck, which might cause accidents.
So there's no way that the government can help you in that?
No, the only way they can help is fix the drainage system.
But that takes a while. It's the Philippines.
That has taken quite some time. I think the only advice I can give is wait it out. Once the floods are there, you cannot go through. Once you get through, you run the risk of an accident because you could lose your brakes. the trucks could lose the brakes because of the flood.
So, can you say that climate change in the Philippines is a real problem?
It is a real problem already because years ago, no typhoon used to hit Palawan, the area of Palawan. Now it is hit by typhoon. Typhoon would hit Palawan once a year. Now I think they have it 4 or 5 times a year. That is climate change.
I'm architect Jonas Pantangco.
And I'm architect Jen Pantang.
Yes, it's a major factor in designing any structure for that matter.
I agree. Weather condition is really an important consideration, not only in design but also in construction. Well, one major change or revolution in architecture is implementing to have an effective, sustainable design is that it does not contribute to flooding. Like we introduced some recycling tanks wherein rainwater will be collected and then can be reused. It can be reused as gray waters for flushing and for watering the plants during dry season.
The architecture must continually adapt to the changing times. Change depends on the environmental factors, but again, architects or designers should consider the environment in proposing any architectural or structural design.
It's an architect's duty to consider the past in designing, conforming with the present, and having a heads up in the future. So meaning, the design that an architect should be delivering should not be addressing the need of the now.
Actually, an architect does not stop. You must be constantly adapting, innovating, and looking for ways to better the life of people. Structures affect the quality of life of people. Therefore, we as architects must not stop in evolving as environment changes. So does the design principles of an architect.
As Mr. Venturanza Sr. said, floods easily remain the most adverse effect of climate change, especially in the Philippines. While Mr. and Mrs. Pantangco mentioned out that these problems can be mitigated through innovative projects in architecture. Even though the latter remains a viable option to lessen the damages of climate change, the future is still uncertain on how the situation will worsen. This generation and the next one will be tasked to carry the heavy responsibility on acting upon climate change in their daily lives. The team gathered 4 individuals to gain a wider perspective regarding this matter. Micael Perez, Mariah Compañero, Nika Acosta, and Aubrey Gomez will give their insights about climate change and how they are affected and how do they adapt to it.
When I was a kid, I remember that the temperature is not that hot even in summer, and cold seasons used to be really cold. Then suddenly, because of climate change, the temperature of the world became worse. In my own case, I have allergies and hot temperatures. It is difficult for me to stay on hot places. On the other hand, rainfalls today are sometimes unpredictable, So with this, I have to be cautious and act to prevent and adapt to climate change. So how did I adapt to climate change? First, I changed the way I dress. I have thinner clothes today compared to before. Second, I always watch the news or read articles about weather reports and also bring umbrella with me in case of intense heat of the sun or if there is rainfall.
Climate change, syempre nakaka-disappoint. Hindi lang sa mismong sitwasyon, pero sa atin na rin mga tao. Kahit sarili ko. Kasi alam ko naman na kahit sa mga maliliit na paraan, nakakontribute din ako sa paglaganap ng climate change mismo. And paano siya nakaka-apekto sa akin bilang estudyante? Uwian kasi ako from Laguna. Tapos may mga araw na minsan bigla-biglang suspended kasi kahit summer, uulan ng malakas, tapos bigla-biglaan na lang. So, syempre, hassle din para sa akin. Hindi lang para sa akin, pero para rin sa ibang students din.
I'm affected by climate change not only in the extreme weather extremities, but as a commuter, I find it very difficult when we experience rain in Manila, especially because of the flooding along Taft and along the different streets that surround my school. It's very difficult because the government does not recognize the problem right away. So especially as a college student, it is less likely to suspend classes in those events. So mahirap mag-commute. I can adapt to it simply by updating myself on the different weather conditions and watching the news about climate change around the world, especially here in the Philippines. And of course, as a human being, I should do my part into practicing and promoting an eco-friendly lifestyle.
As a student, I can really feel the effects of climate change. For me, climate change isn't just about whether it's hot or cold. Climate change has serious effects that can damage the entire Earth. But as of now, I can only feel the effects through extreme weather. Every day I experience the struggle of commuting from house to school and vice versa. And not only does my classes and the long hours of traveling stresses me out, but also the intense heat here in the Philippines. With the increasing temperature, more diseases can spread like malaria and dengue, and more Filipinos will be sick. I will adapt to it by decreasing my contribution to climate change. I will try to practice the 3 R's, also lessen my energy contribution by using it more efficiently. And lastly, I will spread the word and encourage people to help prevent climate change.
It is truly saddening that this situation has gone this bad. With the daily life in the Philippines already a hassle for this generation, it only got worse when climate change is added to the mix. We can only blame ourselves for this. Because of our negligence, we are now suffering the consequences. It will only get hotter and rains will only get stronger. It is the reality that we have to face. Because climate change is mankind's biggest mistake. Climate change is a persistent problem of our society that is unfortunately inevitable at this point.
But what can we do? What is the next step for mankind? The next move that this society can do is to seek adaptable ways that would lessen the impact of climate change.
Aside from adapting completely to climate change by how they operate, businesses should incorporate environmentally sound procedures of completely contributing to the betterment of the lives of the people. Especially for big firms, investing in projects that would be directed to making sustainable ways of living, such as creating products made from recycled materials, should be the key to lessen the damages that can be further done.
For architecture, the concept of caring for the environment while creating innovations in design must be a top priority. Ecological architecture must be practiced as this is a design aimed to minimize the effects of weather-related problems such as climate change. Countries like Singapore, who have green buildings, should be looked upon as they manifest the idea that an edifice is not only meant to house offices and businesses alike. These architectural icons must be made into a symbol that would reflect the willingness of this industry to uphold sustainability in the environment.
As for everyone, we should never neglect our responsibilities as stewards of our environment. As God gave this amazing blessing to us, it is only right to think that we are obliged to take care of it. As much damage has been done, we shouldn't have been a part of the problem in the first place. We can start from the little things, from learning proper segregation or using bikes to go around instead of using a private vehicle. These kinds of actions may seem like it contributes very little to our adaptation in climate change, but it still counts. What matters the most is not how big of an impact that we can make, it's how you chose to wake up and face the reality that we live in.
These solutions can be the basis of what we can achieve if we all work together to overcome a common problem. This might require a big amount of time and effort, but everyone should always remember that this is for the greater good of this generation and the next one.
One might say that it is pointless to make any action, especially with how severe it is. But it should always be accepted that you,
Me,
And everyone else on the planet
Is accountable for this thing called climate change.